What up, everyone? Welcome back to Blade Bias. It is finally time to talk about the Kuno. I spent a week with the Kuno, and this is what I learned. The Kuno, full disclosure, and these aren't reviews, these are just supposed to be my extended first impressions of a product that I get, was sent to me for free. So, but all of the opinions presented in the video and in the past have been my own. The only thing that Remshi said he wanted me to do was make a video. So technically this video isn't even a part of that, but whatever. My own opinions, he just sent me the thing for free. So thank you again, Remshi. And if you think that I'm a shill, whatever. You haven't been watching me for long enough. So let's talk about the Kuno, because the Kuno has been one of the most radical balisongs that I have flipped in a long time. And we'll get into what that means in just a second. Because first, I want to talk complaints. I just want to get the complaints right out of the way. First of all, this thing is very weird. It makes you look at other balisongs in a very different light. And we'll get into that later. I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing, but change is bad to some people. So, The other thing is that there's a part along the channel where there's like there's slightly sharp areas. It's not bad. It's sort of like a plastic balisong would be. Like the old Tay Flipper had like those sharp channels. This kind of does as well. Like towards the end here, there's like a very small rough spot that just like feels a little weird. Very minor complaint because the rest of the balisong is machined quite well. And it just like... It just feels really, really good. The pinsless system, while I am a bit wary of pinsless, hasn't degraded at all in the time that I've been flipping it, and I have been flipping it very extremely. It has hit, I think, everything in this room, as well as stones outside, hardwood floors, decks, all that stuff. Like, it's kind of hit it all, with the exception of concrete, but we'll get there eventually. I just want this thing to make it to Blade Show in pretty good shape, But the pinsless, still, it's still a thing where it's like, okay, I trust this. I don't think it's going to degrade, but we'll have to wait and see. So that's not something I can evaluate in a week. And besides those three kind of minor things, this thing is freaking incredible. It fans amazingly for being a like-on-like balisong. It rollovers awesome. It carries momentum amazingly. You guys have seen it. My flipping has looked way smoother. I've seen comments saying that since I got this thing. And that's not exactly entirely the fault of the Kuno. If I picked up my Nemesis over here, I think my flipping would look just as smooth, and that just owes it all to the fact that I've been practicing so much because I've had so much time to practice and flip. But I don't want to take away from the Kuno. The Kuno is still incredibly, incredibly good, and still slightly the reason I've been flipping so well on camera. The build is really good. I feel like this thing will last. And it just overall, the design is nice. The sound is amazing. A few issues with it just coming like ever so slightly loose and getting tapped. But this is a prototype, so I can't really complain about that. And I did learn that the texturing that I noticed in the unboxing video is just a machine finish. It's not supposed to be a texturing. Otherwise, I would say you would probably want to make that a bit deeper so that you could actually feel it, but since it's just a machine finish, it's actually kind of a nice touch. Jeweling on the inside is nice. Comfort overall is good. I would like to see maybe a little bit more of a chamfer around the blade, but since the blade is so thick, I wouldn't exactly call it uncomfortable. It's not like the Prisma used to be, where the Prisma would kind of like almost cut you in a way. It's not like that, but I think if you catch the corner just right, it can be a little uncomfortable. But like I said, since it's such a thick blade, that doesn't come up too much. That's all like the normal stuff. And this thing, I have so much to say about it. This will be getting a main review on my channel. So if you want to know more about the actual day-to-day flipping experience, go check that video out when it comes out in the next 2 months, maybe. I don't know. I don't make promises on video dates and all that. But what I really want to talk about is how this has changed my view of balisongs in their entirety. This thing is the edit light of metal balisongs. Now, what do I mean by that? A few months ago, I started talking about the edit light. And the edit light was a balisong that I didn't expect to like very much. And then it came, and it was one of my favorite first impression experiences that I have had. You can go back and watch the video. I didn't sound that excited because it was like 10 at night after a tough day, but this thing quickly became my favorite flipper in my collection, and to this day is incredibly good. But the Edit Lite got me excited about plastic again because it showed me what plastic can do. It can be new and unique and still flip really, really good. And the Kuno has done that for me, but for metal. It has showed me that there is still innovation to be done in the metal space, and that it can still flip really, really good. And it has also made me believe in the lightweight metal balisong weight class, I guess. Because I talk a lot on my streams about how I don't think I would like an ultralight, because if I wanted a plastic weight, I would just flip a plastic balisong. I like metal because it's heavy. But this thing is in the perfect range where 3.2 ounces is still lighter than most metal balisongs, but it's also heavier than any plastic balisongs, making it a completely unique experience, and one that doesn't feel too light or too heavy. It feels just right. But I also see the Kuno as in its own class, similar to how plastic is, because of one simple thing. It's huge. It's massive. To the point where, when I finished a stream talking about the Kuno, where I exclusively flipped it basically for 3 hours and was getting used to it, I came over here to my case, I grabbed my Kraken, I opened it, and I laughed out loud. Because when you get used to the Kuno, the Kraken feels like a stubby little dude. It feels like those little smart cars with 2 seats that just always look off. And flipping it, I even felt that too, because there's not as much pull in the blade on the Kraken as there is in the Kuno. And it made me realize just how much momentum the blade in the Kuno carries. And just how much the momentum it carries in general. But that's a topic for a little later. Everything else in my collection feels short and stubby, and that's not a bad thing. I like to think of it as Squiddy syndrome, but for length, if that makes any sense, which is why I see the Kuno in its own class entirely. When you flip a plastic and a metal balisong, anyone can say they're different, and that doesn't make it bad. A plastic balisong, if you flip a plastic balisong for a while, your metal balisongs are going to feel weird. And if you flip a metal balisong for a while, your plastic balisongs are going to feel weird. And that's what we call Squiddy syndrome. We're getting too used to the weight of it. So this is Squiddy syndrome, but with length. And it's different. It doesn't make me hate everything else in my collection. Everything in my collection feels just as good as it always has. In fact, even a little better, because the handles are a bit thicker than the Kuno, and I prefer that. So the Kraken and everything else in my collection, the Nemesis, the Impusa, still feels great. I love flipping them. They flip great, but they just look stubby. And I have to make that same mental switch that I do when I go from a metal to a plastic balisong. When I go from a metal to a plastic balisong, I have to consciously make a change in my flipping to account for the Squiddy syndrome. And I have to do the same exact thing when I go to the Kuno. I have to flip it a little different, especially because of its long blade. Now, you might think that wouldn't help or anything like that, but like, think about when you throw an aerial. You have to keep your hand a specific distance from the balisong so that you can catch it reliably. And you have to extend it a little further out from the Kuno, or else that blade will hit you. And while this is a trainer and it doesn't matter that much, it will still mess up your trick. So there is still like a conscious difference of flipping happening there. And I just can't view this thing in the same league as some of my other metal trainers. Like I wouldn't consider these two in the same. Like I can't compare these two. They're completely different. Similarly, I feel like I can't compare these two. It's such a weird experience that you really can only have once you've gotten used to the Kuno. But I think once people begin to feel that, they'll begin to feel what I mean. Because while the weight is a factor, it's not as much of a factor as the length. Because you just feel like the blade isn't pulling as much weight in the Nemesis or in the Kraken as it is in the Kuno. even though they have very similar balances. Like the Nemesis is not like crazy handle heavy. The Kuno also has like a light handle bias, so it just makes everything else feel weird. And it's something that absolutely can be overcome, just like Squiddy syndrome. In fact, I already am overcoming it, because beforehand I wasn't even able to really flip the Nemesis like as smooth as I could the Kuno, but I'm getting used to it again. I'm getting used to the blade feeling short and the balisong itself feeling small. I have little baby hands, and this thing feels small to me. That's the effect that the Kuno has. And while that's maybe not my favorite thing, I don't really like my favorite balisongs being changed in my eyes by something else. I think it just goes to show how unique the Kuno is. I have not put the Kuno down since I got it. I carry it with me everywhere, which is the first time I carry a metal trainer on me since I got my plastic trainers. I flip it pretty much every chance I can get. It's always next to me on my desk. It's next to me. It's in my pocket. I watched Guardians 1 the other day, just because I haven't watched it in a while and I wanted to rewatch it. A-tier movie, by the way. But I was flipping this absentmindedly through half the movie because it was just next to me and I just picked it up and it just kind of happened. Like, the ease of flipping combined with the durability, the fact that it's titanium, it's light, it's responsive, it's fast, makes it one of the most fun, I almost said funnest, one of the most fun absent-minded flippers that I have. And easily something that I just can rip on wherever and whenever I want. It's awesome. And it probably has become one of my favorite trainers because, like I said, it has not left my side. I bring it with me everywhere or I'm flipping it. It's either in my pocket or it's on the desk next to me. There's like nothing else. There's nothing else like it. It has the weight of a plastic. It's the ease of flipping of a plastic balisong while still having the heft of a metal balisong. It fans really well. It doesn't zero-G chaplain the best, but it zero-G chaplains enough. It rollovers really well, and most importantly, it fans so much better than a like-on-like balisong has any business fanning. I love this thing. I love it a lot. And that brings me to my final complaint. Not really complaint, but point of contention. The price. Because while it's true that this thing has not left my side and I've loved every second of flipping it, every time someone brings up the price, I always get a little hesitant. Now, Remshi, if you're watching this, which I'm sure you are, we have already had our discussion, so please take everything I'm saying with a grain of salt. Launch your product and let the market decide. This is just a discussion that I want to have to get my feelings out there and to be completely honest with my audience. I don't think this is an unfair price by any stretch of the imagination. And I think you should run with it and just let the market do what the market does. But for the rest of you, is this worth $600? Yes, I think it is. I don't think there's really a world where you could say that this wouldn't be worth $500 or $600. Especially in a world where the NAMI trainers that I've seen getting to people have had horrendous QC issues. Blocks Toys on Instagram just had one come with binding issues, which is kind of crazy. And we've seen a huge surge of titanium trainers in that price range. Seraph trainer, Opus trainer, Slift T trainer, Medusa trainer. The Nemesis V2 isn't exactly in the price range, but like the NAMI trainer, you get what I mean. So I don't think this is an outlandish price. I just think that it's a price that you're going to have to justify for yourselves, because I think the hang up for most people is that it's an all titanium design. So you're paying $600 for something that in the eyes of people don't fully trust pinsless yet, and I think that's fine. But I think it's people don't want to pay that much to get in on something that they don't think is going to last. Now, this I think is going to last. I haven't had any degradation of the handles or anything like that. And like I said, This thing has taken some abuse over the past week. So I think it's just like, you can decide if this is worth it to you. I think the flipping experience is absolutely a $600 flipping experience. I would easily put this next to my Impusa in terms of flipping any day of the week. And I think the price anxiety just comes from people not wanting to pay that much for a trainer, which is fair. If you think you should be paying that much and getting a live blade, then by all means, get a live blade. But if you're looking for a flipper, this thing offers a really, really compelling experience, which is why I'm so torn. Because on one hand, would I pay over $600 would I pay $600 for a trainer? In the past, I've said no. But on the other hand, this has been my most flipped balisong in the past week by a country mile, and I would easily put it up there with my other $600 knife, the Impusa. Well, granted, the Impusa is $5 or $550, but once you get that high to someone like me, whose other most expensive knife is like $300, it's close enough, you know? So it's a bit tough. I see all titanium and I think, 600 is kind of tough. But then I flip it and I'm like, damn, this thing flips really, really well. At least to me. So that's the Kuno. I hope I got out everything that I wanted to say, but if I didn't, I'm going to do a full review on this thing because I have a lot to say about it, as the runtime of this video has obviously shown, and as the runtime of the unboxing video obviously has shown. So I'll keep thinking about everything. I am going to write the script before I go to Blade Show so that no one can influence my opinions, because I don't want to get there, have a bunch of people maybe really like it, and then that influences my opinion to be more positive, or the opposite. So I'm going to write my script before I go off to Blade Show. And then also Blade Show is going to be a huge durability test for this thing. So I'll give you guys an update in the Kuno after I get back from Blade Show. But until that review comes out, I think that's the Kuno. You'll definitely be seeing this in more Blade Bias videos because I just love flipping it. But I think that is everything. This is a completely unique balisong in its own class with some very interesting specs and a pretty reasonable price to boot. Although the actual value, I think, is going to be left down to beauties in the eyes of the beholder after all. So you're going to just have to make your own choice. But this thing flips amazing. I love it. Remshi, thank you once again for sending one to me. And thank you, everyone, for watching. I think my camera is going to die any second now, so I'm going to get going. And I will see you all in the next one. Later.